Assalamualaikum dan salam sejahtera. Anda sedang menyaksikan Niaga AWANI bersama saya Nina Rozman dan saya akan mulakan dengan laporan ringgit terlebih dahulu di mana ringgit berkemungkinan kekal diniagakan dalam jajaran kecil berbanding dolar Amerika Syarikat minggu ini apabila pasaran terus mencerna prospek ekonomi global. Ketua Ahli Ekonomi Bank Muamalat Malaysia Berhad Dr. Muhammad Auzaniza Abdul Rashid menjangkakan mata wang tempatan itu akan kekal dalam julat kecil di sekitar 4.7000 selepas meningkat pada awal minggu lepas. Beliau berkata tumpuan pasaran mula beralih kepada mesyuarat jawatan kuasa pasaran terbuka Persekutuan FOMC yang akan datang dijadualkan bersidang pada 11 dan 12 Jun. Beliau menyatakan bahawa isu utama yang mempengaruhi sentimen pasaran ialah sama ada Rizab Persekutuan Fed akan mengurangkan kadar faedah atau membiarkannya kekal seperti sedia ada. Sementara itu, data senarai gaji bukan ladang NFP Amerika Syarikat untuk bulan Mei juga dijangka mempengaruhi sentimen pasaran pada minggu akan datang. Seterusnya, Bursa Malaysia dijangka mengalami tekanan menurun yang berterusan pada minggu ini berikutan pelabur kekal berwaspada dengan menumpukan kepada sektor defensif dan mengelakkan pelaburan berisiko. Pencarta Maybank Investment Bank Berhad Nik Ihsan Raja Abdullah berkata Fuksi Bursa Malaysia KSCI mungkin bergelut untuk memburu momentum meningkat melainkan terdapat perkembangan positif yang tidak dijangkakan daripada data ekonomi global atau dalam negara.
Menurutnya, berdasarkan perkembangan pasaran global baru-baru ini, indeks petunjuk pasaran dijangka berdepan minggu yang mencabar. Selain itu, aliran menurun berterusan yang dilihat pada indeks selain sentimen pasaran yang berhati-hati memperlihatkan konsolidasi pasaran yang berterusan. Nik Ihsan berkata selain itu prestasi FBM KLCI baru-baru ini yang diperlihatkan menerusi penyusutan 6 hari berturut-turut dan dagangan berhati-hati mencerminkan kebimbangan yang berterusan terhadap hala tuju kadar faedah global dan tekanan inflasi. Pasaran tempatan tidak mempunyai pemangkin positif baru menyebabkan tekanan jualan yang berterusan dan aktiviti pengambilan untung. Sementara itu, data ekonomi seterusnya termasuk indeks pengurusan pembelian PMI pembuatan SP Global Malaysia akan dipantau rapi. Menurut beliau, bacaan yang lemah boleh menjejaskan lagi sentimen pasaran. Selain itu, petunjuk ekonomi global seperti PMI pembuatan Caixin China dan PMI pembuatan Institut Pengurusan Bekalan ISM Amerika Syarikat akan menawarkan konteks tambahan terhadap keputusan pelabur.
Data inflasi terbaru Amerika Syarikat menunjukkan peningkatan sekaligus menimbulkan kegusaran sama ada Bank Pusat The Fed akan menurunkan kadar faedah atau tidak. Jika The Fed mengekalkan kadar faedah, ini bermakna ekonomi dunia, khususnya negara membangun juga akan menerima kesan. Dan sudah bersedia dalam talian untuk bantu kita fahami apakah antara kesan yang akan dirasai oleh ekonomi dunia termasuk Malaysia adalah Dr. Muhammad Auzaniza Abdul Rashid merupakan Ketua Ekonomi Bank Muamalat Malaysia Berhad. Saya nak ucapkan terima kasih Dr. kerana sudi meluangkan masa bersama kami melihat data terkini inflasi Amerika Syarikat. Ramai yang berpandangan ini akan mencabar keupayaan The Fed untuk menurunkan kadar faedah. Bagaimana pula pandangan doktor?
Okey, kalau kita lihat trend dalam inflasi yang terkini yang diumumkan pada Jumaat lalu, sememangnya data tersebut menepati apa yang dijangkakan oleh para penganalisis ekonomi iaitu sekitar 2.7%. Dan apabila dibandingkan dengan sasaran yang dibuat oleh pihak Federal Reserve pula, mereka sentiasa mensasarkan 2% itu sebagai satu angka yang ideal untuk mengatakan bahawa inflasi itu telah mencapai satu keadaan yang sudah stabil lah. Jadi itu satu pandangan. Kemudian kalau kita lihat jadi dari sudut orang kata tu big picture, hakikatnya kadar inflasi di Amerika Syarikat telah pun menurun dalam kadar yang agak orang kata tu laju jugalah sebenarnya. Kalau kita lihat sebenarnya kalau dari segi angka inflasi PCE ataupun price Personal Consumption Expenditure Price Index ini, dia telah pun mencapai satu tahap yang puncak iaitu ataupun peak levelnya pada Jun 2022 iaitu 7.1% ya, dan kini sekarang sedang bergerak pada kadar 2.7%. Jadi secara gambaran kasarnya pihak Federal Reserve telah pun orang kata tu mencapai objektif mereka iaitu untuk mencapai kestabilan harga ataupun price stability yang telah pun termaktub dalam mandat mereka. Namun pasaran dan juga apa yang diwawarkan oleh di kalangan ahli Fed itu sendiri menyatakan bahawa mereka perlu mencapai 2%. Jadi angka 2% ni yang saya rasa menjadi persoalan utama mengapa apabila keluarnya angka inflasi itu walaupun kekal rendah, tetapi kesannya kepada pasaran mata wang, pasaran saham, pasaran bond dan sebagainya masih lagi dalam keadaan yang berhati-hati, kerana gambarannya adalah selagi tak capai 2% tu maksudnya kadar faedah akan kekal tinggi sebenarnya. Itu yang menjadi persoalan utama. Terutama bila kita berkata minggu hadapan pula mesyuarat FOMC akan dijalankan. Jadi itu merupakan perkara utama yang menjadi consideration oleh para ahli pasaran.
Dan Doktor, apa lagi yang masih menjadi cabaran sekiranya kadar inflasi Amerika Syarikat terus meningkat dan dikatakan selain daripada cabaran iaitu kadar faedah dikekalkan, apa lagi cabaran ataupun downside risk daripada pengekalan ataupun peningkatan inflasi Amerika Syarikat ini?
Downside risknya adalah tak lain tak bukan adalah kesan kepada pertumbuhan ekonomi negara ataupun pertumbuhan ekonomi global, terutamanya di Amerika Syarikat lah. Kerana pada angka 5.5% iaitu Fed Fund Rate yang berada di paras 5.5% itu telah pun berada di paras yang melebihi paras neutral. Paras neutral ni maksudnya dasar monetary di Amerika Syarikat itu tidak orang kata tu terlalu ketat dan tidak terlalu longgar lah. Tapi angka Fed Fund Rate tersebut telah pun melepasi menjangkaui angka neutral rate yang sekarang ni dilihat sekitar 2.75%. So kalau kita bandingkan angka neutral dalam kadar faedah di Amerika Syarikat dengan kadar faedah semasa iaitu 5.5%, hakikatnya kadar faedah Amerika sangat-sangat restriktif, sangat begitu ketat lah. Dan kesannya adalah bagaimana pula dengan pertumbuhan ekonomi lah. Jadi itu yang saya nampak merupakan downside risk, dan kita bimbang sekiranya kelembapan ekonomi, jangkaan kelembapan ekonomi di Amerika Syarikat itu akan berlaku dalam kadar yang pantas, dan itu akan memaksa pihak Federal Reserve akan menurunkan kadar faedah dengan kadar yang cepat pula. Jadi itu merupakan satu pertimbangan juga yang saya rasa perlu diambil kira, kerana telah pun berlaku yang episod yang lepas yang mana pihak Federal Reserve akan bergerak pantas untuk mengawal ataupun memberi fokus kepada pertumbuhan ekonomi pula. Berbanding sekarang ini adalah fokus kepada inflasi. Di peralihan fokus tersebut dan bagaimana dasar itu bertindak, itu satu perkara yang perlu diberi perhatian, yang akan merubah sentimen pasaran dalam sekelip mata saja.
Dan bagaimanakah unjuran Dr. Afzal Nizam untuk kadar inflasi selepas ini, dan bagaimanakah trend ini akan mempengaruhi prestasi ekonomi dan pasaran tempatan?
Di Malaysia, kadar inflasi itu buat masa ini masih lagi stabil. 4 bulan pertama kita telah menyaksikan 1.7%. Namun bergerak ke hadapan, situasi perubahan dasar itu merupakan satu pertimbangan yang menjadi persoalan utamalah, terutamanya apabila dasar berkenaan dengan subsidi minyak. Sekarang ni kita bercakap tentang subsidi diesel dan akan datang RON 95, dan bagaimana perubahan dasar tersebut akan memberi kesan kepada inflasi. Di rata-ratanya perubahan dasar ini akan memberi impak yang besar, dan itu menyebabkan kalau kita lihat jajaran unjuran inflasi negara dilihat agak besar, iaitu sekitar 2% sehingga 3.5%. Jadi kita bakal melihat orang kata tu upside risk lah kepada inflasi negara buat masa ini.
Dan bagaimana Doktor melihat kepada iaitu pattern dalam kalangan pengguna selepas ini? Adakah kita boleh cakap lihat kepada cool ekonomi, ada perbelanjaan akan dijaga kerana inflasi meningkat, atau bagaimana?
Saya rasa rata-rata masyarakat di Malaysia akan berhati-hati. Itu satu perkara yang telah lama pun berlaku, dan ini pun telah dapat kita saksikan dalam angka yang kerap saya sebut, iaitu indeks sentimen pengguna yang dikeluarkan oleh pihak MIR yang rata-ratanya di bawah paras 100 mata. Namun walaupun sentimen tu berhati-hati, tetapi kalau kita lihat pasaran pekerjaan pula telah pun mencapai suatu tahap apa yang dikatakan sebagai guna tenaga penuh, maksudnya ramai yang telah bekerja. Jadi dengan adanya pekerjaan, dengan adanya pendapatan, maka itu membolehkan mereka untuk berbelanja. Cuma persoalannya, apakah perkara yang dibelanjakan? Sudah pasti kalau dalam keadaan semasa ni pertimbangannya adalah perbelanjaan yang asas, perkara yang orang kata tu berkait rapat tentang keperluan asas lah. Namun berdasarkan pasaran prestasi pekerjaan yang masih lagi dalam keadaan stabil, itu memberi suatu ruang untuk rakyat untuk berbelanja. Namun dalam keadaan yang berhati-hati. Tapi kita sedia maklum juga ada juga dasar yang perubahan dasar yang memberi orang kata tu kesan langsung kepada keupayaan rakyat Malaysia untuk berbelanja, seperti pengumuman yang dilakukan oleh pihak KWSP untuk memperkenalkan akaun fleksibel. Jadi itu satu perkara yang kita tidak boleh orang kata tu dikesampingkanlah. Maksudnya faktor tersebut juga boleh mampu untuk memberi suatu mangkin kepada rakyat Malaysia, terutamanya kepada ahli-ahli KWSP untuk berbelanja dalam keadaan yang lebih lagi. Jadi satu orang kata tu keadaan yang satu segi dia berhati-hati, pada masa yang sama juga keupayaannya tu masih ada lagi.
Dalam keadaan inflasi Amerika Syarikat meningkat, inflasi Malaysia juga meningkat dengan perlahan, bagaimana doktor melihat kepada keadaan, iaitu kita boleh lihat keadaan ekonomi selepas ini? Kerana kita tahu ini akan meningkat, kita nak lihat khususnya kepada sektor. Dalam keadaan inflasi tengah meningkat dengan perlahan ataupun kita boleh cakap dikekalkan, bagaimana doktor melihat antara sektor-sektor yang akan mengalami prestasi memberangsangkan ataupun penyusutan dalam keadaan semasa?
Kalau kita dapat lihat dalam sektor FBM KLCI ataupun dalam prestasi dalam bursa Malaysia, kita dapat lihat sektor seperti pembinaan, sektor berkait rapat tentang hartanah, kemudian kita dapat lihat sektor teknologi pun mencetakkan suatu peningkatan yang agak tinggi. Jadi berdasarkan prestasi bursa Malaysia, itu pun sudah menjadi satu clue lah kepada apakah prestasi yang bakal orang kata tu menjadi pemacu kepada ekonomi negara. Dan kita sedia maklum bahawa kerajaan Malaysia, terutamanya dari segi belanjawan pada tahun 2024 ini, telah meletakkan suatu angka yang agak tinggi dari segi perbelanjaan pembangunan. Jadi sudah pasti dari segi projek-projek infrastruktur akan dilaksanakan, dan ini akan beri kesan langsung kepada pertumbuhan dalam sektor pembinaan. Selain itu, seperti saya sebutkan tadi, dengan keadaan pasaran buruh yang stabil, itu juga orang kata tu memungkinkan rakyat Malaysia untuk terus orang kata tu berfikir untuk membeli rumah dan sebagainya, namun masih lagi dalam mood yang berhati-hati lah. Tapi kalau kita lihat prestasi beberapa syarikat disenaraikan dalam sektor properties ataupun hartanah, telah ada yang mencatatkan prestasi yang baik. Jadi ini menunjukkan bahawa property market juga dalam keadaan yang baik. Jadi itu antara sektor yang mungkin menjadi pemacu kepada ekonomi negara.
Dengan melihat inflasi ataupun kadar peningkatan dalam kadar inflasi Amerika Syarikat, pentingnya untuk kita meliti kesannya kepada pasaran tempatan dan juga ekonomi dunia, dan apakah yang perlu dilakukan dalam mendapati kenaikan inflasi. Sekali lagi saya nak ucapkan terima kasih kepada Dr. Afzal Nizam, merupakan Ketua Ekonomi Bank Muamalat Malaysia Berhad, dan setiap perbincangan ini akan kami rangkumkan dalam astroawani.com dan semua platform digital Astro Awani. Jangan ke mana-mana, banyak lagi laporan yang akan kami bawakan selepas ini.
Jelajah jiwa SME Astro Awani kembali lagi tahun ini.
Bersedia untuk mendapatkan penyelesaian dan transformasi digital untuk semua perniagaan kecil dan sederhana untuk bawa bisnes anda ke peringkat antarabangsa.
Dapatkan info terkini jiwa SME Astro Awani di jiwasme.com.my.
Baik, bertemu kembali dalam Niaga AWANI dan saya akan teruskan dengan perkembangan atau perkongsian data daripada Jabatan Perakaan Malaysia untuk kita lihat beberapa sorotan ataupun highlight mengenai prestasi ekonomi bagi siri kelima 2024. Dan sebelum saya kongsikan mengenai median upahan yang juga yang diterbitkan oleh DOSM untuk kita lihat kadar ataupun gaji penengah ketika ini, saya mulakan dulu dengan sorotan iaitu prestasi ekonomi untuk siri kelima 2024. Kalau boleh kita mulakan dengan sorotan ini untuk kita lihat bagaimanakah KDNK Malaysia suku pertama 2024 yang telah dicatatkan pada kadar yang melebihi daripada jangkaan sasaran. Ia telah direkodkan pada peningkatan peratusan iaitu sebanyak 4.2%, dan antara 5 sektor yang memberi sumbangan kepada prestasi KDNK Malaysia pada suku pertama 2024 mengalami penyumbang ataupun penyumbang tertinggi adalah daripada sektor pembinaan yang telah meningkat kepada 11.9% di sini, pertumbuhan untuk suku pertama dengan sumbangan sebanyak 3.9%. Dan kita lihat daripada ke sektor-sektor lain seperti perkhidmatan, pembuatan pelombongan, pengkeluaran dan juga pertanian juga telah mengalami peningkatan dalam setiap sektor yang sekaligus memberi sumbangan kepada keseluruhan prestasi ekonomi untuk suku pertama 2024. Selain itu, untuk kita lihat daripada segi pengeluaran iaitu ada beberapa kategori pengeluaran dan saya akan mulakan dengan pengeluaran buah tandan segar iaitu kelapa sawit. Daripada prestasi Mac 2024 sehinggalah April 2024 telah mengalami peningkatan yang agak ketara kepada 2 peningkatan digit iaitu sebanyak 27.9% dengan peningkatan sebanyak 7.7 juta tan metrik yang telah direkodkan pengeluaran daripada segi kelapa sawit untuk kita saksikan prestasi terkini pada April. Manakala pengeluaran untuk getah asli pula juga mengalami peningkatan daripada Februari sehinggalah Mac kita lihat pengeluaran getah asli sebenarnya telah mengalami penyusutan daripada Februari 2024 sehinggalah Mac 2024 yang telah menurun sebanyak 0.8% iaitu daripada angka 9.9% penyusutan yang agak tinggi untuk kita saksikan pengeluaran getah asli prestasinya daripada Februari sehinggalah Mac. Manakala indeks pengeluaran perindustrian, kita nak lihat prestasi perindustrian daripada suku pertama 2023, suku akhir tahun lepas kepada suku pertama suku awal tahun ini, ia telah meningkat kepada 3.3% untuk suku pertama daripada segi pengeluaran perindustrian IPP. Dan untuk kita saksikan bagaimana nilai jualan sektor perbuatan juga telah mengalami peningkatan daripada suku keempat 2023 yang telah menyusut sebanyak negatif 2.7% tetapi telah meningkat kepada angka positif sebanyak 1.8%. Tidak ketinggalan hasil sektor perkhidmatan dalam ekonomi negara juga mengalami peningkatan kekal. Kita lihat peningkatan yang stabil. Suku keempat tahun lepas juga mengalami 6.6%. Peningkatan suku pertama tahun ini juga telah meningkat 6.1%. Diikuti juga dengan indeks volume perkhidmatan yang juga telah meningkat pada suku pertama 2024 kepada 4.5%. Seterusnya untuk kita lihat bagaimanakah sektor luaran pasaran buruh dan juga harga. Kita mulakan dengan sektor luaran yang terbagi kepada 2 iaitu ekspor dan juga import. Untuk kita bandingkan prestasinya daripada suku keempat tahun lepas hinggalah suku pertama 2024 tahun ini, kita lihat ekspor daripada penyusutan suku akhir tahun lepas telah mengalami peningkatan kepada 2.2%. Import juga telah meningkat dengan ketara sekali prestasinya pada suku pertama tahun ini kepada 13.1%, dan pasaran buruh juga telah mengalami tren peningkatan yang berterusan kepada 2.1% yang telah direkodkan pada suku pertama tahun ini. Kadar pengangguran juga kekal kepada 3.3%, dan indeks harga pengguna IHP inflasi juga kita dapat saksikan sedikit ataupun peningkatan perlahan daripada suku keempat ke hingga suku pertama kepada 1.7%, dan indeks harga pengeluar IHPR juga telah kita lihat daripada penyusutan daripada suku 4 suku akhir tahun lepas telah meningkat sedikit kepada 0.4% pada suku pertama 2024. Dan ini adalah sedikit sorotan statistik ekonomi Malaysia untuk kita lihat siri kelima bagi tahun 2024. Selain daripada recap ataupun highlight ekonomi daripada segi pasaran harga buruh, inflasi, kita akan beralih juga untuk kita saksikan bagaimanakah laporan statistik upah pekerja daripada sektor formal untuk suku tahun keempat 2023 suku akhir. Di sini kalau kita lihat bilangan pekerja formal warga negara pada Disember 2023 adalah seramai kita lihat 6,674 ribu orang dengan median upah bulanan sebanyak 2,900. Dan kita nak lihat pada suku keempat daripada segi bulan ke bulan, Oktober sehinggalah Disember. Kalau kita lihat di sini, bilangan pekerja formal pada bulan Oktober 2023 dibandingkan dengan Oktober 2022 tahun lepas telah mengalami peningkatan daripada segi bilangan pekerja formal yang telah meningkat kepada, kita dapat saksikan 6,700, iaitu peningkatan kepada lebih kurang RM2,600 gaji media upahan. Manakala untuk bulan November juga kita dapat saksikan peningkatan pada peningkatan kepada median gaji kepada RM2,600 dengan jumlah bilangan pekerja formal yang telah direkod kepada tahun lepas sebanyak 6,674,000. Dan kalau kita lihat di sini, Disember juga mengalami peningkatan. Kalau kita lihat perbandingan bulan ke bulan daripada Disember 2022 tahun lepas sehinggalah Disember 2023, gaji median pendengar telah mengalami peningkatan daripada RM2,700 sehinggalah RM2,900. Dan kalangan pekerja formal juga daripada tahun Disember 2022 sehinggalah Disember 2023 juga telah meningkat kepada 6,600 lebih. Dan ini adalah serba sedikit untuk kita lihat bagaimanakah prestasi ataupun upah pekerja dalam sektor formal untuk suku keempat 2024. Pada masa yang sama, untuk kita saksikan perincian dalam statistik ini, kita dapat saksikan bagaimanakah prestasinya kita dapat lihat daripada Disember 2022 sehinggalah Disember 2023, prestasi dalam masa setahun. Dan kita lihat di sini iaitu prestasi daripada gaji minimum RM1,500 sehingga RM1,999. Kita lihat median gaji media upah bulanan telah mengalami peningkatan di sini. Namun pada Disember 2023, kalau kita dapat saksikan, gaji media upahan bulanan telah berekod kepada RM2,500 kepada RM2,999. Dan ini adalah prestasi ataupun kita lihat perbandingan gaji median upah bulanan daripada Disember 2022 sehinggalah Disember 2023. Dan antara jantina, kalau kita bandingkan antara lelaki dan wanita, median upah bulanan bagi lelaki sebenarnya adalah lebih tinggi daripada wanita. Kalau kita saksikan daripada sini, even dalam suku keempat dari bulan ke bulan, Oktober, November, Disember, lelaki ada lebih tinggi gaji median upah bulanan ini berbanding wanita. Kalau kita lihat daripada contoh yang terbaru daripada segi bulanan, lelaki telah mencatatkan median upah bulanan daripada RM2,945, manakala wanita hanya RM2,845. Dan kita lihat daripada dulu sehinggalah sekarang, bukan sahaja di Malaysia, sehinggalah peringkat global, jurang median ataupun jurang gaji keseluruhan antara lelaki dan wanita masih luas. Seperti yang kita dapat lihat daripada data ini menunjukkan jelas bagaimanakah jurang gaji antara lelaki dan juga wanita. Selain itu, untuk kita lihat untuk daripada segi etnik, antara bangsa ataupun etnik mana yang mempunyai telah merekodkan gaji ataupun median upah bulanan mereka mengikut dimensi. Daripada sini untuk kita lihat prestasinya dalam suku keempat 2024 daripada bulan ke bulan. Namun kita akan ambil bulan Disember, iaitu bulan yang terakhir, bulan terakhir untuk suku keempat 2023. Di sini kita dapat lihat gaji penengah daripada etnik Cina. Mereka mengalami iaitu media upahan yang tertinggi berbanding Bumi Putra, India dan juga lain-lain. Kalau anda dapat saksikan di sini, iaitu China telah merekodkan sebanyak gaji media upahan sebanyak RM4,300. Ini adalah gaji media upahan yang paling tinggi yang telah kita dapat saksikan oleh kumpulan etnik Cina. Berbanding Bumi Putra hanya RM2,427 dan India RM2,864. Dan ini adalah sebesikit untuk kita lihat perbandingan gaji dalam kalangan pekerja formal mengikut etnik ataupun dimensi. Dan kita lihat daripada sini kumpulan umur. Daripada kumpulan umur daripada sini bawah 20 tahun sehinggalah lebih daripada 65 tahun. Kalau kita nak saksikan, kalau kameraman kita dapat zoom in sikit, kumpulan umur daripada umur 35 hingga 39 tahun, kumpulan umur pertama 35 tahun sehinggalah 54 tahun. Ini adalah kumpulan umur yang mengalami median upah bulanan yang tertinggi berbanding kumpulan umur yang lain, atau kita boleh cakap kemuncak dalam gaji media upah bulanan. Dan daripada segi media upah bulanan mengikut dimensi, kalau kita saksikan di sini, antara sektor yang tertinggi adalah perlombongan dan pengkuarian telah mengalami media upahan yang paling tinggi dengan merekodkan sebanyak RM6,844 berbanding sektor-sektor yang lain, dan antara sektor yang terendah median upah bulanan mereka yang dialami adalah sektor pertanian sebanyak RM2,300 yang telah dicatatkan pada Disember 2023. Dan antara negeri, kalau kita lihat median upah bulanan Malaysia, antara negeri yang mengalami media upahan yang tertinggi berbanding negeri-negeri lain adalah, iaitu kita dapat lihat wilayah Persekutuan Kuala Lumpur mencatatkan RM4,045 setakat Disember dan Selangor RM3,164 setakat Disember tahun lepas. Manakala kita lihat Kelantan juga mengalami antara gaji media upahan bulanan yang terendah dengan mencatatkan RM1,600 pada Disember 2023 pada tahun lepas. Dan ini adalah sedikit untuk kita lihat bagaimanakah realiti sorotan ekonomi dan masuk median upahan setakat ini. Dan kita mempersilakan tetamu kita dalam talian untuk bantu kita fahami daripada data ini apakah realiti ataupun cerminan ekonomi. Kita mempersilakan Datuk Dr. Zakaria Abdul Rashid, merupakan penganalisis ekonomi. Saya nak ucapkan terima kasih Datuk kerana sudi meluangkan masa bersama kami. Daripada apa yang telah saya kongsikan, iaitu data daripada sorotan ekonomi, kita lihat daripada segi pasaran buruh sehinggalah ke gaji, median gaji ini perinciannya. Mungkin Datuk boleh kongsikan bagaimana Datuk melihat antara data-data ini ia mencerminkan realiti pekerjaan terutamanya dalam komponen gaji. Bagaimana Datuk?
Ya, baik, terima kasih Nina. Pertama sekali saya nak nyatakan bahawa data-data yang ditunjukkan tadi adalah hasil daripada gerakan cyclical dalam perniagaan global dan juga di dalam ekonomi Malaysia. Maksud saya cyclical ini ialah dia bergerak seiring dengan pergerakan business cycle. Kalau katakan kita ride on gelombang perniagaan. Kalau katakan gelombang perniagaannya sedang meningkat, maka kita juga akan meningkat. Kalau gelombangnya turun, kita juga akan turun. Jadi terutamanya Malaysia, kita ni adalah sebuah negara kecil dan juga sebuah negara yang sangat dipengaruhi oleh gelombang perniagaan dunia. Jadi kita akan terkesan itu. Jadi balik semula kepada data tadi. Pertama saya lihat kepada data GDP yang meningkat kepada 4.2% itu. Seperti yang Nina katakan tadi, memang betul bahawa dia meningkat kepada 4.2%. Tetapi peningkatan itu adalah disebabkan oleh, saya katakan tadi, oleh business cycle. Tetapi bagi kita dalam jangka panjang, maknanya kita tidak lagi melihat kepada cyclical movement, kita melihat kepada apa yang kita nak capai, hasrat kita nak capai, maka 4.2% itu tidak memadai. Kalau kita nak mencapai kepada hasrat tahun depan 2025, apatah lagi hasrat kita nak mencapai kepada 2030. 4.2% walau bagaimanapun kita kira bernasib baiklah, kerana kita menikmati saya bukan nak katakan pemulihan ekonomi yang lebih baik lagi di peringkat global. Ya, macam seperti apa yang dia katakan tadi, kita dapat meningkatkan ekspor kelapa sawit, tapi ekspor kelapa sawit telah memberikan kelegaan kepada kita. Dari segi, kalau kita nak lihat pula dari segi by sectors pula, tadi ada Nina sebutkan tentang pembinaan yang menyumbang banyak pada 11% lebih gitu. Tetapi kita mesti ingat bahawa sektor ini adalah sektor yang paling kecil, kurang daripada 5% sumbangannya kepada GDP ataupun KDNK, maka kesannya tidaklah begitu besar sangat. Yang kita nak lihat kepada sumbangan sektor-sektor besar seperti sektor perkhidmatan dan juga sektor pembuatan seperti itu, yang peningkatannya tidaklah begitu memberangsangkan sangat disebabkan oleh keadaan ekonomi dunia. Sekarang saya nak beralih pula kepada upah yang Nina memberi fokus kepada siaran ini. Begitu juga upah yang merupakan indikator kepada pasaran buruh juga sama meningkat. Kita lihat bahawa upah telah meningkat, median telah meningkat kepada 2,900 berbanding dengan 2,600. Dan ini saya katakan tadi adalah disebabkan oleh kerana kita menikmati upswing dalam global business cycle tadi, maka kita dapat meningkatkan upah. Tapi kalau sekali lagi kalau kita nak melihat kepada upah dikaitkan dengan soal kesejahteraan, soal cost of living, jadi 2,900 itu masih lagi jauh daripada memuaskan. Kerana kita kalau kita bandingkan dengan tingkat upah wajar yang pada tahun 2017 tingkat upah wajar yang dinyatakan oleh Bank Negara ialah 3,047 upah. Jadi kita punya mediannya ialah baru 2,900. Walaupun gitu, saya katakan kita meningkat daripada 2,600 kepada 2,900, tetapi saya katakan tadi jauh daripada memuaskan. Jauh daripada apa yang boleh kita capai ataupun apa yang ingin kita capai. Dan seterusnya Nina ada menunjukkan tentang upah gap ataupun dalam bahasa istilah sekarang ni dipanggil kesenjangan upah. Dari segi dimensi laki-laki dan perempuan, yang itu tidak berapa membimbangkan kita kerana itu adalah fenomena global dan bezanya pun tidak begitu banyak sangat. Tetapi kalau kita melihat perkara lain lagi, iaitu upah antara etnik, yang ini pun adalah satu kesenjangan yang kekal daripada sejak kita merdeka dulu. Kalau kita lihat upah etnik Cina jauh lebih tinggi daripada upah etnik India dan sedikit lebih tinggi daripada India punya, sedikit lebih tinggi daripada upah etnik Melayu, Bumiputera. Jadi yang saya bimbang sini ialah kesenjangan yang begitu besar di antara upah etnik Cina dengan upah etnik India, yang saya rasa itu perlu kita address isu itu. Kerana kesenjangannya itu besar sangat. Begitu juga Nina ada menyebut tentang kesenjangan dari segi negeri-negeri ataupun wilayah-wilayah. Dan kita lihat dalam data yang ditunjukkan situ ialah misalnya katakan wilayah Pusat Kuala Lumpur paling tinggi, diikuti oleh upah bagi Pulau Pinang, Johor Bahru dan seterusnya, Melaka. Dan gap ini kalau bandingkan dengan upah yang paling rendah, iaitu upah yang paling rendah medianya ialah bagi Kelantan, dan juga kedua yang rendahnya ialah Sabah dan seterusnya kepada Terengganu. Jadi kesenjangan inilah yang saya rasa menjadi yang patut kita memberikan perhatian. Ya, Nina.
Datuk, menarik apa yang telah Datuk kongsikan. Kita berbakikan 2 minit melihat daripada kesenjangan ataupun gap yang telah kita bincangkan ketika ini, kesenjangan daripada lelaki, wanita, daripada peringkat negeri sehinggalah peringkat etnik, pelbagai dimensi ini. Jadi kita nak melihat kepada dasar gaji progresif. Bagaimanakah dasar ini dapat diintegrasi kepada sistem gaji sedia ada untuk menambah baik lagi, iaitu arus ataupun dasar polisi sistem gaji untuk keseluruhan rakyat Malaysia agar dapat ditingkatkan. Bagaimana, Datuk?
Dasar gaji progresif digubal untuk mengadres isu, bukan isu kesenjangan secara khusus, tetapi lebih kepada isu gaji yang rendah. Jadi sekarang ni saya difahamkan bahawa Kementerian Ekonomi sedang melakukan pilot ataupun pilot project untuk mendapatkan majikan-majikan yang cuba yang ingin turut serta dengan diberikannya insentif seperti mana yang telah kita bincangkan dahulu. Dari segi teorinya ini memang baik sekali kerana harapannya ialah untuk meningkatkan upah purata. Jadi tetapi ini merupakan satu pilot project. Kita belum tahu lagi hasilnya, bagaimana majikan mengambil peluang ini untuk turut serta dan bagaimana kesatuan sekerja dan pekerja-pekerja menyambut baik ataupun tidak projek seperti ini. Jadi saya rasa dalam suku ketiga nanti apabila ia telah habis projek ini dan kita akan boleh menilainya dengan lebih saksama lah Nina.
Baik, saya nak ucapkan terima kasih kepada Datuk Dr. Zakaria Abdul Rashid, merupakan Pak Analisis Ekonomi kerana bantu kami kepentingan signifikan gaji upah median upah bulanan ini dalam meningkatkan produktiviti negara dan bagaimana ia memberi sumbangan kepada pembangunan dan juga pertumbuhan ekonomi negara bergerak ke hadapan. Sekali lagi saya nak ucapkan terima kasih kepada Datuk dan semua perbincangan ini akan kami rangkumkan dalam astro.awani.com dan semua platform digital Astro Awani.
Sarawak disasar menjadi negeri pengeksport padi menjelang tahun 2030. Sekitar 200 penduduk kampung hampalan singgah mata Pulau Bumbum sempurna menerima bantuan pemeriksaan kesihatan secara percuma. Seterusnya, Kerajaan Sarawak menyasarkan ekspor pertama gas hidrogen pada tahun 2027.
Sabah Electricity Sdn Bhd SASB mempertukar lebih RM500,000 untuk melaksanakan projek bantuan mesra rakyat BMR.
Perhentian sekali lagi menawarkan tarikan baharu dengan pembukaan Marriott Resort and Spa, sebuah resort antarabangsa taraf dunia 5 bintang yang pertama di Pulau Pantai Timur semenanjung Malaysia. Dan pembukaan ini telah dirasmikan oleh Sultan Terengganu, Sultan Rizal Zainal Abidin. Dan untuk saya ceritakan sedikit mengenai resort ini, ia telah dibangunkan oleh Ikasas Land, iaitu anak syarikat kepada Ikasas Group. Projek ini telah mencerminkan komitmen teguh mereka untuk mencipta pengalaman yang bertaraf dunia serta memberi sumbangan kepada pertumbuhan industri pelancongan tempatan. Jadi mari saksikan perbualan eksklusif bersama pengarah urusan Ikasas Group, Tan Cikian. Alright, I want to say thank you very much for joining me. Firstly, I want to say thank you very much for this opportunity for us to be here and experience this, to bring a narrative outside. And firstly, Siki, maybe you can share with us, with the introduction of the Perhentian Resort and Spa, how will it affect the competitiveness landscape of the luxury resort?
Well, thank you, Lina. Thank you for your time. I really hope you enjoy this first 5-star international brand resorts over the island of East Coast Malaysia. Well, if you have stepped in from the Marriott Perhentian Resorts jetty, I think not only you, many people will see those big tropical trees which may have survived here for hundreds of years, right? As I always told the tourists, it's my darling there. You know, if you see the big trees there, okay. If you see carefully, these trees are love-shaped. Hundreds of years been here. Even if you will walk along our path for 4.8 kilometer elevated platform, if you notice carefully, why we spend this amount of money to do the elevated platform, I always told all my friends and tourists, you could even bring your LV sports shoes, come have a treadmill or jogging here. I guarantee it's no muddy, and you know the shoes will remain as it was. Now, why? Because when having the elevated platform, we allowed all the plants where the aborigines type of species of plants growing at their motherland. We allowed them to grow while we're still enjoying this mother nature of these resorts, right? Now, most of the big trees here, you see, we transplant them from the forest. It's all original breed from the whole this island. We never import them in.
Natural.
Yeah. So if you can see the species of trees, some I even not had seen it before. Even if I grow in the East Coast, it's very rare species that it only survive in this island.
Oh.
Yeah.
And what kind of strategies to be employed, the promotional activities, the marketing, to enhance the visibility of the resort?
Well, I think today's these globalizations, to do the marketing, first of all, we have the Marriott. Marriott brand is one of the most powerful brands in the world, right? They have one of the biggest hotel chains in the world. I think they can do a very good jobs in the marketing. Apart from that, today's social media is so powerful. By having more value customers, value guests come in, people are spread around by the thought we put in and the comfort we offer them. And slowly, I think we can market to the whole world, no issue.
And what kind of strategies to be implemented within the operational to make sure that the resort meets the international luxury standards?
Well, I would emphasize about sustainability. Apart from the normal 5-star comfort, the sustainability to me is very, very important. I keep on saying that the only resources we have at East Coast is all about the motherland resources, where the sustainability counts. Now, those underneath the sea, coral is one thing, right? Those above the ground, trees, right? Even some this is what we call the fauna and the flora that we can actually see around. It's very important.
What is the economic impact that you anticipated for the local and even the broader states of Terengganu with the introduction of the Perhentian resort?
Well, it certainly will bring the multiplying effect. When tourists come in here, they will not only come to Perhentian, they may even stop by Kuala Terengganu for a week or a few days, and the food consumptions, the hotels, and the mix of culture is very important. Mix of culture study. We are living in Malaysia. The ethnic of the Malay culture, the pure Malay culture, is actually from the East Coast. The state of Kelantan, Terengganu, and Pahang, which we are still way to explore. It's far, far, far. We still need to catch up to show to the world. We cannot hesitate to show. So this is important feature.
Are there any future plans, or we can say developing additional properties at the resort? How?
We will. Of course, we are eager to expand another few more, right, in the regions. But we'll see how Marriott brands affects the ROI. I always strike the balance. Our plan and commercial decision must be strike the balance, right? If we have the good response from customer or the guest, we certainly will move on for the second, third one. Yeah.
And what are some of the potential risks associated with the service here? Because we know that it's fluctuations of seasons, where there's rainy seasons. So how do you navigate the strategy to make sure the services, the offer that has been offered from this resort sustain?
Just now we have covered. Thanks, Nila. If you still remember what I said, we spend thousands of ringgit or dollars, fly all the way to Hokkaido to see snow, while the Japanese is so fed up of the snow. And the monsoon at East Coast is yet to be explored. We don't like the monsoon rain, just like the Japanese doesn't like the snow. But we must think out of the box and see beyond where the box of Malaysia, Peninsular Malaysia. In this earth, right, there are many countries, people, they like to see rain. For example, the dry season like Arab or the desert countries, rarely they see rain. I think this is what we think out of the box. We wanted to promote even like monsoon seasons, promote the monsoon to those countries, yeah. But of course, we got to take care about the logistic, how to cross over to this Pulau. Yeah.
And maybe we just launched today and this week. Maybe you can share, how do you foresee the prospect of tourism in Terengganu and as a whole for Malaysia?
If you enter to KLA International Airport, I think if you notice there are many posters. Oh, nice beach, nice coconut trees, some Malay wooden hut, right? Actually, all these are East Coast, but unfortunately, not many people know about it. So I guess we need a lot of marketing from the Terengganu tourism, as well as Putrajaya Motek. We can work hand in hand to promote Malaysia, especially this undiscovered or less discoverable area like East Coast. Yeah.
Dengan pembukaan perhentian resort dan spa ini, kini Terengganu berada di peta destinasi pelancongan mewah global, membawa harapan kepada kemajuan ekonomi dan kebanggaan negeri. Dan setiap arah hukuman membuat eksklusif ni akan kami rangkumkan dalam AstroAwani.com dan semua platform digital Astro Awani.
Jelajah jiwa SME Astro Awani kembali lagi tahun ini.
Bersedia untuk mendapatkan penyelesaian dan transformasi digital untuk semua perniagaan kecil dan sederhana untuk bawa bisnes anda ke peringkat antarabangsa.
Dapatkan info terkini jiwa SME Astro Awani di jiwasme.com.my. Alright, Malaysian buyers are increasingly drawn to the UK property market, motivated by factors such as investment security, educational prospects, and the city's global appeal. And recent trends show a surge in Malaysian investments in both residential and also commercial properties, reflecting a strategic shift towards diversifying their portfolios internationally. So to discuss further on this, we have the right authorities joining me on the line, which is Simon Capp, the head of residential sales, British Land, and Chong Shu Ling, head of sales, JLL Malaysia. Good morning, guys.
Hello, good morning.
Thank you for joining me this morning. Perhaps we can start with Shu Ling. Firstly, what drives Malaysians to invest in UK properties, and understanding the factors that make the UK an attractive place for local investors?
First and foremost, because London being UK, being the world financial city, it is attractive for Malaysians to invest there. And historically, the price growth in UK is strong. Every 7 to 10 years, the price double. Not just that, the market has been really strong as well. Just give a little example. So, I complete one of the property first year in February this year, but completion in they already found the tenant. So this is really very attractive to most investors. Other than that, the legal system and tax system in the UK is very transparent and it's easy to understand. And most importantly, there's no restriction for foreigners to own a property in UK.
And as for Simon, why should Malaysian investors consider London specifically for opportunities, investing opportunities?
Yeah. First and foremost, it's human reasons and why and how they engage in London. So as Suling said, we're a top prospect for global education. Within London, obviously, we've got many leading global institutions. We're a top centre for commerce, finance and tech. In terms of lifestyle, we're a very cosmopolitan, exciting, vibrant city. We're historic yet modern. So we're very much seen as a global icon and above all a safe haven, politically moderate, very transparent process to purchase residential real estate. And so that's why it's generally so popular.
And Shu Ling, looking at the current trends in the UK property market, how are Malaysians impacting these trends and what does this mean for potential investors in the future?
Looking at the trend, for a lot of Malaysian, and not just Malaysian, I think foreigner as well, they are very attracted to buying in the UK master plan development, especially buying in phase 1 of the project. So because buying in the phase 1 big master plan, you will be enjoying capital appreciation.
Maybe you can add a little bit more on that, Simon?
Yeah, so Shuling's referring to our Canada Water Master Plan project, which is a rare thing in the market. Firstly, the scale of the piece of land within central London. It's directly opposite to Canada Water Tube Station in Zone 2, and it's a real opportunity for British Land and our JV partner, Australian Super, to create a new vibrant mixed-use district within central London. We're currently embarking on our first phase, which is allowing us to see some really interesting demographics with sales data generally. But in terms of the facets of the project, it will deliver a brand new high street, 16 new streets, around 3,000 homes over the next decade or so, 2 million square feet of office space and 1 million square feet of leisure as well. So it's a really interesting, exciting piece of news about London, creating a new neighbourhood within London itself, which is a rare occurrence.
But maybe you can share what are the type of properties that attract Malaysian investors? Is it residential or perhaps commercial, and luxury properties? What are the most attractive for them so far?
Yeah, it's residential. So for the individual, the ability and ease of process to buy a London or UK property is very straightforward. Obviously, you need to use trusted advisors like JLL, and also ensure you're buying from a reputable developer. But the ability and ease in which and speed to acquire a property is straightforward. In the main, we are seeing that most of our buyers are people who tangibly need a property. So it's motivated by children or family who might be planning to study or move to the UK and London to work.
But looking at the British Land's predictions for UK property market and the role of foreign investment, especially from Southeast Asia, what future trends can Malaysian investors look forward?
Yeah, the great thing with London is if you look back across the last 30 years, it demonstrates very predictable, sustained growth. So across a 30-year period, it averages out 6.8% growth year on year. And looking forwards, again, this is JLL forecast data, they anticipate about 19% growth over the next 5 years. So it's a very stable commodity with long-term good growth prospects.
Maybe from Shuling, anything that can say from the future trends?
The future trends? Well, I think this will be continue the interest for the Malaysian, especially they find good opportunities in the UK. An example for this Canada Water project.
In terms of the legal and regulatory requirements for Malaysian investors in purchasing property in UK, what are those requirements needed, Shuling?
Okay, there are no restrictions for foreigner buying in the UK property. So for Malaysian, for example, we can either buy from a developer or a resale development. I think one thing can be shared here is the Anti-Money Laundering Act in UK is very strict. So for the customer must be aware that they are required by the law to disclose the source of funds to either the developer, solicitor, or the real estate agent. So for a lot of Malaysian, they find this very bothersome, but in fact, this is actually a standard procedure in the United Kingdom.
How about the exchange rate, Simon? Do you have? We know right now the exchange rate between UK and Malaysian ringgit can impact the investment decision. So, looking at the current rate right now, how is it impactful?
Yeah, it definitely does impact it. I think what we see typically is a sustained ongoing level of interest, and then regionally across the globe, as there's currency fluctuations that can spike activity, as obviously it impacts kind of international buying power. But again, I'd go back to the fact that many of our buyers are purchasing or some form of own use. And so actually the variance in the inquiry levels and the transaction rates are surprisingly sustained and steady over the term.
And maybe do you have a figure of the trends of Malaysian investors that's interested or attracted to UK property? Do you have any figures that you can share to the audience?
We do. So within the last 12 months, we've seen over a doubling of the amount of Malaysian-based inquiries, along with Shu Ling, who is our sales representative in KL and Malaysia. It's consistent. We see a real global demographic of buyers across phase one of our residential building. It's called The Founding, directly opposite to Canada Water Tube Station. We have sold to over 10 nationalities. The biggest key trend amongst that is local UK buyers. They are by far the biggest demographic in isolation. But beyond that, over 10 nationalities. It includes Southeast Asians, of which Malaysia forms a part, but also Europe. So yeah, London is a popular city for all kinds of reasons, and internationally it's popular.
So Shu Ling, besides London, what are other cities in the UK that Malaysian investors are attracted to?
Most of the Malaysian investors, they are attracted in London. It's usually for my customer base, I will see that when some of them, maybe they have like a slightly lower budget, then they will start look elsewhere, like maybe Manchester, Birmingham, etc.
We can talk a little bit more on the range of prices. I mean, just roughly, so we can our potential Malaysian investors in the future can expect to in terms of the budget. What are the ranges?
Well, so our new flagship project, The Founding, part of the Canada Water Master Plan Phase 1, prices start around the equivalent of 4 million ringgit. So that's about 700,000 UK sterling, up to over £2 million sterling for the trophy apartments with fantastic views. This is an example of a project which is centrally located in London, directly adjacent to a tube station, and we feel it offers great value and first phase access into a project which over the next decade will be creating a brand new, exciting, vibrant district for London.
Anything from Shu Ling?
I agreed with what Simon mentioned.
Okay, what about the financing options are available for Malaysians that are looking to invest in the UK property markets?
The good news is actually for Malaysian customer, they are able to apply the mortgage from our local bank, like for example, Maybank, CIMB Bank and OCBC Bank. So most of these banks, they will give the financing for London property for Zone 1 to Zone 3, and other places is case-to-case basis.
And Simon, looking at the educational prospects in London, we know many of our students in Malaysia go or move to UK to further their studies. So how does these educational prospects in London influence Malaysian investors or investment in the property market? How do you look at it?
It's definitely one of the key drivers. I would say over 50% of our transactions with Malaysian purchasers are fueled by a need because their children or younger generations of the family are intending to relocate to London for educational purposes. So for us, it's a big factor.
And in terms of potential risks and also challenges Malaysian investors might face when they plan to invest in UK property market, what are those risks that they should look forward to, or perhaps what are those strategies that they should prepare to mitigate this risk?
Yeah, so I think it's multifold. So geographically, obviously, London is a long way away from Malaysia, but there are great processes. I think it's pivotally important that you use a reputable sales agent to assist you in the purchase process, and also identifying a developer who delivers and has a track record of high quality delivery. In terms of growth prospects, as a commodity, the price data on it is remarkably robust over the long term. So, as I said, over the last 30 years, about 6.8% increase on average, and forecast over the next 5 years about 19% positive growth. So financially, it's definitely secure. And in terms of process, it's just ensuring that you work with trusted advisors. And the British legal system itself is very straightforward and transparent, which in turn generates a lot of appeal from those who are based overseas.
And Shuling, coming from JLL itself, perhaps do you have any specific person in charge to handle such a risk or to mitigate these issues that perhaps will occur in the future?
Yes, we provide a one-stop service to our customer. From the day they reserve the unit, we will follow up along the way until the completion, and then to assist them if they need a mortgage, or upon completion they need to rent it out or to furnish the apartment, or in future when they want to resell. So we are always holding our customer hand.
There was an insightful discussion with Simon Cap, Head of Residential Sales, British Land, and Chong Shuling, the Head of Sales, JLL Malaysia. And I hope to speak to both of you soon, hopefully live next in the future. And thank you so much for joining me in the online on Niaga AWANI. And you can find the whole discussion on all of our social media platforms and astroawani.com.
Ini info yang aku ada. Target kita keluarga 5 gading.
Belum. Betul tu nak buat ni.
Hello and welcome to Niaga Spotlight. Me, Tamina Kausji. Niaga Spotlight goes through the week in business and future affairs. Market watch, industries, analysis and insights. We've got you covered right here on Niaga Spotlight. Well, this week on future affairs, we're looking at Islamic finance and economics. Now, it's very interesting to note that by 2026, the global Islamic finance industry is expected to reach $6 trillion USD in value. Malaysia's strong Islamic finance ecosystem, digital transformation, and growing takaful awareness can position the country to become a global leader in Islamic finance and takaful. These, of course, were also highlighted at this week's Global Forum of Islamic Economics and Finance, GFIEF, which was themed Shaping a Resilient Global Islamic Economy Through Values-Based Reforms. Now, more recently, the potential of Islamic finance towards addressing global economic challenges via Maqasid Sharia or objectives of Sharia and transitioning towards net zero are key opportunities for a future with sustainable finance and economic justice for all. Now, millennial and Gen Z Muslims in Southeast Asia also increasingly embracing Islamic banking, with 77% of Malaysians and 65% of Indonesians surveyed using it alongside traditional banking, compared to only 35% of Muslims globally. Malaysia also boasts the highest proportion of consumers who only use Islamic banking, 42%, compared to just over a quarter, that is 26% of global respondents. With APAC representing around 25% of the global Islamic finance market, Niaga Spotlight today, we discuss strategies for Malaysia to emerge as the clear leader in the region. Professor Dr. Aishat Muniza, who is Professor and Assistant Dean with the International Center for Education in Islamic Finance in CF University, Malaysia, joins me now for this conversation. Good morning, Dr. Aishat. Thanks so much for taking time to join us on Niaga Spotlight. How are you doing today?
Good morning. Thank you very much. I'm doing good. Hope you're doing well as well.
Absolutely. So, Dr. Aishat, to start off the discussion, now looking at Malaysia's large Muslim population, as well as the strong support from the government and government-linked institutions, this has really helped expand the reach of Islamic banking in the country. If we could begin perhaps by discussing the potential for Islamic finance, as well as other Sharia-compliant instruments to further expand this in Malaysia.
Thank you very much for that great question. No one can deny that Malaysia is not the hub of Islamic finance, because Malaysia is right now considered as the cranium of Islamic banking and finance in the world. Now, looking at the potential, there are still areas that we can improve. For instance, when it comes to Islamic commercial finance, we are talking about Islamic banking, takaful, Islamic capital markets. We have achieved a lot of milestones. But when it comes to serving the underserved segment of the population, what can Islamic finance do is something still we are deliberating on. And we have achieved something, but not as much as we are supposed to achieve. What I'm talking about here is the use of Islamic social finance to serve the unserved and underserved segment of the population, or to achieve financial inclusion in another way. Now, if we look at the potential of Islamic social finance instruments such as zakat, the compulsory alms, awqaf, Islamic endowment, sadaqah, charity, we believe that there is a lot of things we can do, but at the moment, the reason why we are hesitant to use that in the formal sector of economy is something we need to think about.
Absolutely. I think you make some really key points there, especially considering how well-known instruments such as zakat, sedekah already are in Malaysian society. We'll go a little bit deeper into some already existing social finance experiments that have been happening in Malaysia, some of which you've also been directly involved in. But firstly, I think that it's very interesting, before we move forward, Dr. Aisha, to perhaps going into some of the enduring misconceptions or myths, as we could say, about Islamic finance and banking that may act as a barrier for adoption to the wider public. Malaysia, of course, being a multicultural, multi-ethnic society, this is also of key concern.
Yes, definitely. For instance, the most people we have think that Islamic finance and banking should be only for Muslims, but it's not the case. Anybody who wants to take such products and services, it's open for them, irrespective of the faith convictions. So I think this is the most fundamental misconception that we have to eliminate in our societies to move forward. And furthermore, even among the Muslims, of course, we understand the worship activities, or as we call it, ibadat activities more. We know that we have to perform daily prayers, to, for example, give compulsory alms. We know that religiously we have so much obligations, but when it comes to financial transactions, sometimes we fail to understand how to distinguish between riba and trade activities, because from a Sharia perspective, riba is something which is prohibited, but the alternative to riba is the trading activities or the business transactions that we have to engage in. So how to distinguish ribawi activities or riba-based activities and the trade-based activities in reality is something which is difficult for us to do. And we have this misconception that everything that gives us a profit is riba, but it's not the case. Riba is something which is very simple to understand, which is very definitive. Riba simply means that, number one, if you engage in giving a loan which is supposed to be benevolent to someone, then you cannot ask for anything more than the principal amount you've given to the debtor. So first, there should be a loan transaction, creditor-debtor relationship. The principal amount is the amount that must be returned. If an extra amount is charged in a benevolent loan contract, then that extra amount is riba. Riba doesn't mean that charging of profit in any of the trade transactions. So this is also a misconception we have. The problem in Islamic finance is not charging of the profit, but when you engage in riba. And there's another type of riba, which is riba al-fadl, when you exchange the ribawi commodities. The ribawi commodities are, for example, when you exchange gold for gold, silver for silver, barley for barley, wheat for wheat, salt for salt, dates for dates. Then only when you exchange it not on spot, or when you do it not in the same value, then that can lead to riba. So riba is something which is very specific. The problem in Islamic finance is not related to charging of profit at all. So this is also one of the misconception. And another misconception is Islamic finance and banking should be something which must be like complicated. It cannot be like conventional finance where the relationships are direct between the parties. It's true that Islamic finance, for an extent, is complex than conventional financing because if you look at the modes of conventional financing, normally they will create a debtor-creditor relationship based on a loan transaction and charging of interest. But when it comes to Islamic finance, we have different types of relationship that we create with the customers. For instance, it could be lessor lessee if we are using a ijara transaction, so on and so forth. So definitely it's complex, but it doesn't mean that Islamic finance is difficult to be performed. We do have everything structured now within the banking system, banking framework. If we take Malaysia as an example, we understand that within the Bank Negara's banking framework, we are doing Islamic banking and finance. It is not in isolation to that.
That's right, exactly. And thank you so much for that very clear explanation, particularly when it comes to the concept of riba, which may be quite misunderstood, even by perhaps even Muslim consumers themselves. But speaking about the fact that riba and so many other Islamic financial instruments, of course, they come from a very ethical basis. Let's perhaps discuss for a brief bit, Dr. Aishat, how has the more recent boycott, divest and sanction, the BDS movement, in reaction to everything which is happening in Palestine and Gaza right now, how has it also increased vigilance on the composition of Sharia compliant financial instruments, ensuring that potential investments are, of course, going towards the betterment and not towards the detriment of anything occurring across the world and, of course, in places which are inhabited by majority Muslim populations?
Definitely, the boycott movement that has happened in the world has actually proved that we are moving towards a much more ethical societies whereby ethical considerations are given paramount consideration, because previously ethical considerations are kind of invisible to us. Now, if we look at Sharia screening criteria that are practiced in different parts of the world, most of the considerations are given in ousting elements which are not Sharia compliant, and it includes some of the ethical considerations, but not to the extent where we are practicing it right now. So I believe that because of the boycott movement, we understood that reforms are required to Sharia screening as well, whereby a qualitative element apart from the quantitative elements we used needs to be inserted. I think Malaysian Securities Commission's Sharia screening criteria is one of the good example to illustrate it, whereby they don't only have the quantitative elements embedded in it, but there is an element of qualitative component in it, whereby the freedom is given when the Sharia screening is done of companies to consider these types of unethical elements. If there are unethical elements, they can oust the company from being Sharia compliant. So I think what it has taught us is that time has come to actually show to the world that whatever Sharia compliant is automatically ethically compliant as well. Because there's no need to have two different types of screening criteria. We can embed that in one. And in future, hopefully these types of reforms we will see in Islamic finance, including specifically the Sharia screening criteria we are using around the world.
Absolutely. I think you make a great point there, Dr. Aisha. But of course, speaking about ethics and speaking about finance, that also makes me think about the much broader picture of what has become very much a catchphrase, especially since the pandemic, everything to do with ESG. Would you also say that there is great opportunity for Malaysia in particular to perhaps harmonize Sharia compliant financial products and instruments with the broader picture of ESG and ESG related investments, which are the next and continuing big thing?
Yes, definitely. I think Malaysia has achieved a lot when it comes to adopting ESG into Islamic banking and finance framework. Now, if we look at before pandemic, of course, people were more concerned about the commercial financial activities. But after COVID-19, we have realized that the world poverty clock has gone back to more than 30 years, making it a collective as well as individual responsibility to help those who are in need. And suddenly we understood that together collectively we have to work to eliminate poverty in this world, especially finding solutions to uplift those who are unserved and underserved in the communities. And if we look at the Malaysian frameworks we have, for example, the SRI framework issued by the Securities Commission Malaysia shows that how an ethical Sharia compliant instrument can be issued, which will help not only the issuer to achieve their objectives, but also those who invest can have this assurance that whatever they are investing is ethically acceptable, and there is a societal impact which they are creating, which is a positive impact. And I think the latest version in this regard we can see is the Maqasid Sharia guidance, which is issued by the Securities Commission Malaysia, which talks about how we can actually adopt Maqasid Sharia, which aligns with SRI concept, ESG concept, and even UN SDGs into the capital market, which often we don't talk about. Because when it comes to capital markets, we always believe that that is for big corporations, for their liquidity management purposes, and for social purposes, it shouldn't be used, or it cannot be used because it is kind of incompatible. Why? Because from an immemorial time, we believe that capital market instruments have been used only for commercial viable purposes only. So I believe that a lot of things have changed after the pandemic, and it's actually for good it has changed. And today there are a lot of frameworks that can be leveraged to achieve these goals, and people have understood that it's not only for commercial gains we have to engage in financial activities, but also to help the unserved and underserved segments, we can use the existing frameworks.
Exactly. And speaking of the existing frameworks and the main economic financial benefits of Islamic banking, Dr. Aisha, do you believe the sector can sustain its high growth rates in the decades to come vis-a-vis traditional banking? How do you feel that balance is going to move ahead coming forward?
Of course, we have moved very much progressively. However, when it comes to progress, the definition needs to be changed. Do we want to grow in number, or do we want to have quality products? I think the next type of growth we want to see in Islamic finance and banking industry is not achieving the numbers so much, but having quality products that can serve everyone. It should be universally served, meaning that we should have innovative products which are different from our conventional counterpart. Because from immemorial time, since the institutionalization of Islamic banking or finance that took place in 1963, starting from the Midqamr establishment in Egypt, we tend to say that we have to create a level playing field between conventional and Islamic finance. And we always compare apple to apple between conventional and Islamic finance, thinking that they are the same. But today, at this point, we realize that if conventional finance is an apple, then Islamic finance is orange. It cannot be compared same to same at same level, because the way how it operates, the framework in which it is shaped is totally different. And I think, therefore, the future growth of Islamic banking and finance wouldn't be so much, we wouldn't be focusing on numbers, but we would be focusing on impact. What are we achieving? Are we alleviating poverty? Are we helping those who are financially excluded in the society? Are we making a difference in the society? This is what we are looking for. So for me, growth is that even if the numbers are growing, even if you're stagnant in numbers, it doesn't matter. Actually, the impact should be the way how we should measure the growth in future.
Dr. Aisha, so speaking about the potential of Islamic finance as a tool for poverty alleviation, enhancing social mobility, could you share with us a little bit more about the recent UNFPA Malaysia launch of an Orange Perpetual Fund and the Work Kafala program, which aims to economically empower domestic violence survivors? Now, this is an extremely innovative approach. What does it actually entail?
So as you know, when we talk about financially excluded population in countries, normally we just believe that they belong to the category of B40, and we don't segment them into categories. So because of that, I believe that it's very important to see those who are financially excluded in the societies in a way where they are socio-economically in a disadvantageous position because of a circumstance which they had to face in once upon a time in their life. Therefore, with UNFPA, we try to find out what could be done to help one of these segments, which is the domestic violence survivors, to financially and economically empower them so that they could do something on their own and it doesn't become a burden to the society in which they live. So for that, we started collecting information and we found out that there are two ways in which we could help them. One is making them economically and financially empowered through finding them job opportunities or engaging them in entrepreneurship activities. If we look at domestic violence survivors, we believe that there could be those who are educated enough to get a 9-to-5 job. But as you know, because of their circumstance, they might need a safe environment. They might not be able to go anywhere and do the work. So we have to find a safe environment for them to go and work and earn. Likewise, there could be people who had a dream. They wanted to start a business, but because of that circumstance, they sacrificed it and now they want to resume it, but they don't know how to do that. So for these people, again, we need to provide a helping hand, and we need to give proper training, proper even the funding required, and guide them throughout their career to become an entrepreneur. And the third category is right now they have a business, but they want to expand it and they don't have the means to do that. So again, they need a helping hand in this regard. So therefore, we formulated the Work Kafala program. So Kafala basically in Arabic means guarantee or sponsorship, which means that we are going to help these domestic violence survivors who need these types of entrepreneurship opportunities or a job opportunity by providing them the environment, the means to do so. And we have collaborated with IRSIP, one of the Islamic finance specialized institute under University Islam Selangor, to do this. And the second initiative in this regard, which we have formulated, is the Orange Perpetual Fund initiative. So we found out that normally we focus so much on the survivors of domestic violence that we neglect their children. There aren't much opportunities available for their children to get educational opportunities, especially when they want to go for higher education. They have these funding constraints which they face. And because of that, they tend to sacrifice their education and do something else. So we thought if we can come up with this Orange Perpetual Fund, definitely the children of the domestic violence survivors can become educated and they will be helping their family to economically and financially become empowered.
Absolutely, helping to really reduce life cycle impacts of domestic violence. Now, definitely initiatives like this should be something which can be further promoted. Thanks for the conversation so far, Dr. Aisha. We take a quick break. We'll be back right after. Don't go anywhere. You're watching Niaga Spotlight.
Asia tumpuan utama dunia. Dengan ekonomi yang semakin rancak, pembangunan lestari dan tenaga boleh diperbaharui, apakah pula impak kecerdasan buatan AI dalam perkembangan teknologi dan masa depan pekerjaan? Kami mendalami setiap berita dan cerita. Saksikan diskusi, dialog dan laporan khas di Agenda Awani Asia bersama koresponden khas kami setiap Sabtu 9 malam di semua platform Astro Awani.
Welcome back to Niaga Spotlight. You're still with me, Tamina Kausji, and today, of course, we're discussing Islamic finance and economics with Prof. Dr. Aishat Muniza from INCF University. So, Dr. Aishat, since its establishment in 2005, INCF has also become one of the world's leading academic institutions on Islamic finance. Tell us about the journey so far and any plans for the near future.
Yes, the INCF University has been established with the intention of creating the global talent pool required for the Islamic finance industry at a time where not so much prominence was given to Islamic finance education. So I believe that through INCF University today, we have created the global talent pool required for the Islamic finance industry. And since then, a lot of things have changed. More educational institutions have entered into the market, whereby they offer similar courses, and more talent pool are developed because of that. As for INCF University, now we focus more on not only education, but also creating a quality talent pool required for the industry by offering diversified courses, specifically on those areas where more attention is required. So one of the new courses that we have introduced in the past few years is action-based learning, whereby the confidence to the students is given before they even go out of the university that they are able to implement what they have learned inside the classroom by engaging in industry players who wants them to do a consultancy project, which should be finished within one semester and assessed by not only internal mentors, but outside mentors as well to get a good grading. So with these types of initiatives, I believe that the students not only know that whatever they have memorized can be there in the brain, but they also know how to practically implement that. At the same time, they can develop their soft skills as well.
Dr. Aisha, so that does sound like a very holistic way to move forward with educating the future workforce for Islamic finance. Moving along from there, any thoughts on the fact that in 2023, Malaysia was the largest sovereign issuer of sukuk, reinforcing, of course, our role as leading global players in Islamic finance? How can Malaysia perhaps leverage further on its position to not only cement its role as a global leader, but also assist other countries in expanding the global Islamic market? Taking from this.
I believe that there's a lot of potential for that. Time has come to show how Islamic social finance can be integrated to sukuk market as well. If you look at Indonesia, for instance, the government has come up with the cashback of linked sukuk, where even Islamic Development Bank has recognized as a very innovative way of raising financing. So I think time has come to show more types of innovative instruments that could be issued through the country to show the world that these are the things which are doable. So some of them include, for instance, going into issuing of blue sukuks or even orange sukuks for that matter. And in the realm of Islamic capital markets, recently our Prime Minister has announced that a social exchange will be soon created by the Securities Commission Malaysia, showing to the world that even Islamic social finance can be integrated to the capital markets, again showing that Malaysia is still relevant to the industry and it is still the leader.
Absolutely. So that would, of course, be one of the primary drivers, which is actually showing us that the expansion of the Islamic finance ecosystem is really well on its way. I'll also just quickly highlight the fact that just last week, Aon Bank also officially launched the country's first Sharia-compliant digital bank. Dr. Aisha, this has been a most informative segment. Thank you so very much for taking time to join us.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
Well, that's all we have time for today on Niaga Spotlight with me, Tamina Kausji. We'll see you next Friday with more business analysis and insights. Here's to a productive week ahead.